Hello and welcome. My name is Chrissy. I'm so glad to have you here on my channel, which is Chrissy Love, where I review perfumes because they are my hobby and my passion, and I'm always in the process of curating my collection. And all your feedback and all the community that we built here talking about perfumes helps me a lot, and I feel like I'm really growing all the time in my appreciation for specific notes and different types of perfumes. And I am at my heart a gourmand lover, but I'm always looking for what's next and what's gonna really feed my soul perfume wise. So that's my cat Jessie in the background, and you'll see I have spotlights on in the background because it's now 8 o'clock as I'm filming this now at night, and so we're getting all romantic. I have my cape on, little Phantom of the Opera thing going on, because speaking of what I was talking about before, the next generation of my perfume experience, I am looking for my rose perfume, my special rose. And rose is important because it, as an essential oil at least, has a calming effect on the body, and I think it has a calming effect on the mind as well. And I think that when we have rose in our perfumes, the reason why it's so prominent is because we are just compelled to seek it out. I think it has an effect on us and our psyche. And so I'm really not a big floral lover. I'm really a sweet perfume lover. So I am on the search for my perfect rose. And so I thought I would create this video showing you what I've found so far. I found 8 perfumes that really I see as being a potential fit for me. And I think they're also a good fit for someone who is, just starting out on their rose journey, or is looking for something that is kind of a more gourmand leaning rose, something that's not really too terrifying or too challenging as a rose, nothing too prickly as a rose, but something that they can really latch on to and explore. So I'd love to hear your comments on what your favorite rose perfume is. Please let me know. I really do want to know. And that being said, I'm going to jump right into the 8 rose perfumes that are in contention right now to steal my heart. So I think it's safe to say this one already has stolen my heart. And that is Van Cleef and Arpels Rose Rouge. And I have Orchidee Vanille, which is why I got interest in this collection extraordinaire in the first place. And so the top notes on this are blackcurrant, pink pepper, and bergamot. The middle notes are rose, raspberry, and vetiver. And the base notes are cacao pod, vanilla, patchouli, benzoin, vetiver, and musk. And when I first spray this, I get a really effervescent, happy rose. It has this natural sweetness. It has these green notes. It's just so uplifting and pretty. And there is vanilla in the base. Maybe that's what's adding sweetness to it. But in the top, it really is a very sweet rose. And then in the dry down, it's less green and more of like a realistic rose, but it's still very effervescent and very sweet. So I'd call this a gourmand rose. And the way I describe this really is like a candied rose sitting in champagne. That's absolutely what I get from it. This is just gorgeous and classy and sophisticated, but still sweet enough for me, which says a lot. I'm like a pink sugar girl, so it's got to be pretty sweet. So this is quite sweet, but still being very sophisticated. I see this being a really lovely like wedding perfume, or if not that, then like wedding attendee or bridesmaid perfume. I think it is just lovely. And performance-wise, it really sticks around all day. It has pretty great projection. So this is one that I just cannot see ever leaving my collection. And this is definitely my kind of rose. And this is the Van Cleef and Arpels Rose Rouge. This next one smells really similar to Rose Rouge to me. So I probably won't buy a full size since I already own it, but I have to mention it. And that is Mancera's Roses Vanille. And I have a sample size, so I'll put a picture of what it looks like as a full bottle. Now the notes are different though. The top notes are lemon and water notes. The middle notes are rose and sugar, and the base notes are vanilla, sugar, white musk, and cedar. And it is sweet. This is another one that's really bright and effervescent. To me, this reads as like a pink rose, whereas the last one, it kind of like was a red rose somehow in my mind. So basically this smells like a sweetened rose sitting in like soda water. So like not champagne, but more like soda water. So it has the effervescence. It has this kind of syrupy vanillic sweetness. So it's like a more outward like vanilla sweetness in it. And the dry down, it turns real jammy. It's a very jammy rose with that still vanillic sweetness. It still has that effervescence in the dry down. It really is a sweetened, jammy rose. Really delicious. It is still complex and sophisticated. It is absolutely gourmand and very sweet and yummy. And in the deep dry down, tell me if anyone else has this, but I get kind of like a coffee vibe in the deep dry down, like after wearing for a few hours, which is pretty interesting. Performance is excellent. Absolutely lasts all day, projects all day. It is gorgeous. So if you are kind of just getting started on your rose journey but want something that's still sweet and really accessible, Rose's Vanille is a really wonderful one. Next, I have Miss Dior Roses and Roses. Now, I own Miss Dior Eau de Parfum, and it does have rose in it. And I didn't talk about it, or I decided not to talk about it today, because it's not like outwardly rose. It's more like a patchouli scent that happens to have rose in it. So I chose Roses and Roses instead. And the top notes on this are geranium, bergamot, and Italian mandarin. The middle notes are grass rose and damask rose. And the base note is white musk. And when I first spray this on my skin, I get a really dense, musky rose, for sure. It still has this syrupy sweetness to it, actually, like a sweetened essential oil of rose or something, but you definitely get the musk, which sets this one apart. And in the dry down, what I get really is like sweet patchouli and a pink rose. So it's really sophisticated and pretty. It is complex. I mean, Miss Dior, you can't go wrong. It's really lovely. But the musk is kind of elevating it, I think. So it is sweet, but you have that musk element as well. Now, performance is really great for eau de toilette. It sticks all day. It projects for probably the first few hours on my skin, and it doesn't project quite as well, but it really does stick around. And this is just a really beautiful one. So I would say it's like not as sweet as the others, so it's not like a gourmand rose. I wouldn't describe it as that. This is more of like a slightly sweet, like musky rose, but still lovely. And that is Miss Dior Roses and Roses. Now the next one I have here is Coco Mademoiselle Intense. And this is one that, rose aside, I've honestly completely fallen in love with. And some people have compared Sofia by Sofia Vergara to Coco Mademoiselle, and I disagree. I think it's more like Coco Mademoiselle Intense. And I've smelled Coco Mademoiselle, and I thought it was honestly just a little bit too basic for me. I mean, it is a pretty scent. If you wear it, it is gorgeous. It just wasn't standing out to me. But when I smelled Coco Mademoiselle Intense, it like hit something emotionally inside. Now, I got it on this like spray sample card, and I basically had to tear it apart to get to the scent because it was impossible to use. So please don't judge me. I have just like this ridiculous little like leftover from like having to cut open the sample. I actually have purchased a full-size bottle, and it hasn't gotten here yet. But so this is what I have so far. So for top notes, we have Sicilian orange, Calabrian bergamot, lemon. And middle notes are rose, fruity notes, and jasmine. And base notes are patchouli, tonka bean, Madagascar vanilla, labdanum, and white musk. And those notes just really do not encapsulate how incredibly beautiful this scent is. Now, when I first spray it, it is vanillic. It is like a sugared rose with patchouli. It is gorgeous. And in the dry down, I get kind of like an ambery patchouli with a hint of that vanillic rose. So it's very ladylike and yet youthful. Like, think like homecoming queen. It's like youthful and classy and sophisticated for like a young person. But of course, anyone can wear it, but that's what I get. And of course, it has that beautiful Chanel undertone that is just unmistakable. Not the aldehydes from like original Chanel, not that, but like this classy, complex, gorgeously blended Chanel feeling from it. Now, this is not outwardly rose in the dry down. I kind of just slipped it in here because it's just so darn good. I had to talk about it, but it does have rose in it. So if you are like, I really don't like rose. I don't like rose, Chrissy. Don't even tell me. You need to get your nose on this. I think that it will be the very first step on the rung to getting you to a more rose-forward perfume. Performance, though, it's pretty good. It's gone in about 5 hours, to be honest. It's not excellent. So, you know, for the price, debatable. But I think the scent is just luxurious and sophisticated and lovely. Just lovely. So classy. Really a great special occasion perfume. I think if you wore this every day, it might be a bit heavy-handed. But then again, you could be that kind of lady, and I got no problem with that. So again, this is Coco Mademoiselle Intense. So if we're talking rungs of a rose ladder, this is like third rung. So this I have here is Aura by Swarovski. And I'm probably not going to buy a full-size bottle, which I still have the sample I got from like an order of Fragrance X. I just kind of threw it in there because it was $2 or something. But I was actually really surprised how beautiful it is. So this was released in 2011. It's definitely not a new perfume, but it's still kicking around. So top notes are lychee and rose. Middle note is tuberose, and base notes are pink pepper, musk, benzoin, and amber. And when I first spray this on my skin, oh, I get like a sparkling white rose. It's so crisp. And it has this kind of herbal undertone, but it doesn't have too much sweetness. If it does have sweetness, it's like one of those natural rose sweetness. But then in the dry down, I get more of like a little more sweetness, and I get some musk in there. So this is good if you're like ready to move on from that jammy rose and want to take it to the next level. So this definitely is like a brighter rose. It's more floral. So it's less on the sweetness side, even though it has the lychee in it. That's really just in the top note. I'm not getting it in the base note. So the base is like really quite a sophisticated rose. But being that I'm a gourmand lover and I usually like sweeter over the more floral, I'm surprised at how much I actually really like this, even though it's quite a floral leaning rose. So this is actually one that I have heard nobody talk about, but it's out there and it's actually really beautiful. And I'm going to put a picture of the bottle. It probably is up there already. Future Chrissy editing. I know you already have it up there. But the bottle is actually really cool looking. Kind of like a lipstick container, actually. So this is one I definitely recommend. Again, if you like a little bit of musk in your rose. And I think you're going to really enjoy this because there is like a tad bit of natural sweetness still. So highly recommend Swarovski's Aura. Now I just could not leave this one out. It's just too obvious. And that is Lush's Rose Jam. And I have the pot of it, which I do not recommend. I recommend getting the spray. It smells great, but it leaves this like pink residue on my skin. I'm quite pale, so I mean, it just shows everything on it. And so this did not work for me. But other than that, the fragrance itself is lovely. So the top notes are Turkish rose, rose oil, and marmalade. Fun! Middle notes are lemon and spicy notes, and the base note is geranium. And this, maybe it's because it's the creamy one, but it's quite a linear scent. It is a very sweet, jammy, creamy rose. It actually has kind of like this Play-Doh-like quality to it, but it's not obtrusive. It's just kind of like the undertone, like the natural ingredients in it. Quite sweet. I mean, marmalade is all you have to know. Like, yes, I've actually seen they make rose jelly. I've seen it. It's like this lovely charcuterie type jam, and that's what it smells like. It is jammy and sweet and yummy and gourmand. So if you've never used rose before in your life, this is probably where I would start. It is so decadent. I will also comment that the performance on Rose Jam is not that great, but it might be because I have the pot of it and not the spray. So I would say give it a chance. I think it actually is pretty decent when you have it in the spray end. And that is Lush's Rose Jam. So this next one is for people who want to try rose, who are really citrus lovers. And this is Amazing Grace Bergamot by Philosophy, which I got in my Scent Bird a while back. Now the notes on Fragrantica are a little bit different than the ones on the card from Scent Bird, so I'm actually going to use the ones on the card as reference. So we have bergamot, rose, orange blossom, and musk blend. And when I first spray this on my skin, I get like that bergamot hit for sure, and I get rose and other florals. So it's really fresh, it's citrusy, but it has this kind of natural sweetness. But in the dry down, it really dries down into those florals. So it's like those realistic white florals. And the bergamot kind of takes a back seat, but it's still there. So this is really great if you don't want to go full on rose, but you want like a hint of floral with your citrus. It's really pretty. The performance though is a bit lacking. It lasts for most of the day on my skin, but doesn't project that well. So this is also good for someone who doesn't want to be smelled before they're seen. But as far as rose goes, it's not necessarily super rose forward, but it's a nice introduction to rose with a little bit of that citrus and sweetness thrown in. So that is Philosophy's Amazing Grace Bergamot. So this one also came in my Scent Bird, But I can't even find the notes on Fragrantica, so I'm so glad I have this card telling me. And it is Memoire's Candle Lit Evening. And this fragrance collection, there's a bunch of them on Scentbird. And they're really about like recreating actual experiences and getting really close to them. And so this one, Candle Lit Evening, it has rose bouquet, sweet bourbon, and honey. And it really does. Like that's exactly what I get from it. So when I first spray it on my skin, I get a very sweet red rose. So that honey is really shining through in that moment. And then as it dries down, it becomes this like bright, realistic rose, but very sweet. So the rose actually starts to kind of like become the supporting actor to the honey. Now, is bourbon in there? Absolutely. The bourbon really just rounds it out and makes it a little more boozy, a little more interesting. So it's not just like a sweet honey rose. It has that interest from the bourbon. The performance, though, it lets me down a little bit. It definitely lasts for 3 or 4 hours, no problem. But then after that, it kind of fades. You have to respray it. So it's lacking in that. But overall, as a fragrance, it's just beautiful. It's perfect. If you don't like rose, I think you're still going to really like this one because it's well blended. It smells pretty complex. It smells really classy. And also it doesn't smell like anything I've actually smelled before. I think it's a really unique scent, despite it not being that many notes that I'm seeing here anyway. It's just really satisfying and classy. I can see this being even an everyday scent. I mean, it's called Candlelit Evening, like it's for date night, but not necessarily. I think that this is really sophisticated for like an everyday scent, or if you use it for a special occasion scent, I think it will fit really well also. I definitely see this being like a tango night scent, actually. This is like kind of fun. It's sweet, but it has a little booziness to it. I'm like falling in love with it in real time right now. So that is Memoire's Candle Lit Evening. So I hope this video was helpful as we move along our rose journeys together. I'd love to hear what rose perfumes you love, or if you've smelled any of these. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and thanks just for being here with me. I just really appreciate your eyeballs on my video, and interacting with me is all the better. So hope you have a very beautiful day.